It's time for our technology segment, and joining us now is our tech reporter, Paul Ndiho, with a look at digital currency. Hi, Paul.
Hello, Esther. Africa's fintech ecosystem grew nearly by 60% in the last 2 decades, according to a new report by Disrupt Africa, thanks to mobile technology startups leapfrogging into the future. Last week, tech, finance professionals and investors from across Africa and around the world gathered in Addis Ababa for the Africa Fintech Summit to discuss the future of financial technology and banking. For more, I'm joined by Akin Sawyerr, Strategy and Governance Lead for Decred, an autonomous digital currency platform. Mr. Sawyerr, welcome to Africa 54. So bring me up to speed. How was the conference in Addis Ababa?
The conference was really good. I think it was, the first time for lots of Africans and Westerners to come to Addis Ababa and really see what Ethiopia was about. So it drew people from East Africa, West Africa, and it was really focused on fintech firms that are really building the future of financial services. So in that regard, it was a really interesting gathering.
Why Ethiopia? A lot of people say that Ethiopia is a closed country, but it seems to be opening up when it comes to the technology side.
Yeah, so I mean, Ethiopia has recently elected a new president who actually won the Nobel Peace Prize recently for some of his work. And the country has been opening up over the last few months at a really fast pace. So they just deregulated the telecom sector. They're looking at financial reforms. And they're really opening up the country for the first time in a few hundred years to bring in investments from around the world, but also find strategic partnerships from other entities within Africa.
Who are the key players when it comes to fintech?
So a lot of the key players, oftentimes in lots of African countries, the banks play a very important role. They're becoming more and more innovative. But then you have lots of fintech startups, like Flutterwave, that are beginning to develop just, M-Pesa is a pretty well-known platform out of Kenya. And so Africa is really, going into this idea of mobile financial services and being mobile first. And financial innovation is really accelerating across the continent.
You are one of the key speakers at the conference. What is it that you're pushing for?
Yeah, so, I work for an entity called Decred, which is a digital autonomous organization. It's kind of extending this idea of not just having a cryptocurrency, which we do, but really thinking about how you build a fully native digital entity, right? So everything from currency that underlies markets, but the ability to have voting rights within the entity, the ability to make sure that anyone can participate, so it's permissionless. So we're really kind of taking this idea of cryptocurrencies and projecting it a little bit further and saying, what do future organizations look like? How can we create a digital commons where anyone, regardless of where you are, where you're born, can actually have a fair game and a fair chance of participating as the world, continues to go global and become a lot smaller.
When you talk about digital currencies, a lot of people don't understand what it is. What is it that you guys do?
So I think fundamentally, when you talk about digital, cryptocurrencies, what people really miss is this idea of we're innovating the future of money, right? So I think lots of people are used to fiat currencies, getting your money issued by a central bank, but that wasn't always the case historically. Central banks are an innovation over the last 100 years. And so what we're saying is look, the future is digital, the future is mobile, that people should have more control of their money. And with the advent of Bitcoin, there's now been a way that people can actually control, hold the money, and actually understand the monetary policy around these digital currencies, right? So whereas you might have a central bank that inflates your currency, which is what most fiat currencies are, cryptocurrencies tend to have what we call programmable money, where the monetary policy is fixed. Over time, in essence, as people work within those digital economies, value should accrue to the currency, right? So it's rather than being an inflationary currency, it's more a deflationary currency.
Then why is it that a lot of central banks, for example, are scared maybe to regularize or to figure out a way of authorizing these digital currencies to work as a form of currency?
Sure, but it's an issue of control, right? If you think about the nature of central banks control money, and beyond just central banks, nation states use money as a tool, right? The US dollar is the reserve currency of the world. And because of that status, the US government has a lot of power, whether it's through sanctions or through leveraging the currency to control other countries, right? So with digital currencies coming onto the fore, it's a threat against the current power structure. And we're really trying to create a movement that gives power back to the people. And in many ways, it sort of aligns with the democratic ethos of individuals having democratic power. And so we're trying to basically pull things back to a purer sense of individuals having individual sovereignty, having the ability to control your money and your wealth, but also having that power to vote and exercise that vote. I think in Decode in particular, we're creating an ecosystem where it's not just about the currency, but it's being able to be part of a community where you have those rights, and those rights can never be taken away from you.
Well, Mr. Sawyerr, I would like to have you on another edition, but for now, I thank you so much. That was Akin Sawyerr, a strategy and governance lead for Decode. That's it for today's Tech Reporter. Back to you, Esther.